old Hollywood is a captivating era, and the legacies of many iconic stars from that time continue to captivate the public. While their contributions to film and culture remain immortalized, the final resting places of several famous actors have become symbols of their enduring fame. However, many of these graves are off-limits to the public, either due to their location or due to the wishes of the families or organizations who control them. Here are some notable old Hollywood actors whose graves you cannot visit, each with its own intriguing story. Marilyn Monroe. 1926–1962, Marilyn Monroe remains one of the most iconic figures of old Hollywood. Her untimely death at the age of 36 has been surrounded by controversy, leading to endless speculation about her life and death. Monroe is buried in the Westwood Village Memorial Park Cemetery in Los Angeles, a cemetery that has long been a site of pilgrimage for her many fans. However, her gravesite is a private place now, and while it was once relatively easy to visit, security measures have increased significantly over the years. Monroe's grave is located near that of other celebrities, but her grave is typically surrounded by security fences and barriers. The cemetery used to allow fans to visit freely, but now it is more guarded and unauthorized access is prohibited. This is due to the enormous number of visitors that the site attracts and the desire to preserve the sanctity of the cemetery. In addition to the cemetery's policy, Monroe's gravesite was historically adorned with personal tributes and flowers from fans, but these have often been cleaned up to maintain the site's appearance. There are no official tours to Monroe's grave, so unless visitors have proper permission, her final resting place is not easily accessible. James Dean, 1931–1955. James Dean, the legendary actor who became a cultural symbol of rebellious youth, tragically died in a car crash at the young age of 24. His grave is located at the Park Cemetery in Fairmount, Indiana, where his family is buried. However, James Dean's grave has a unique, somewhat tragic story. The grave has become a place of pilgrimage for fans, but it is no longer open to the public for general visitation. In recent years, the cemetery has restricted access to his grave due to issues with trespassing, security concerns, and the overwhelming crowds of people who attempt to visit the site. Fans used to be able to visit the cemetery and see the grave freely, but now there are barricades and access is restricted to certain times of the year. Additionally, his tombstone has been subjected to vandalism over the years, including the stealing of souvenirs from the grave. The increased attention surrounding his grave made it increasingly difficult to maintain its preservation, and as a result, public access to Dean's final resting place is highly restricted. Clark Gable, 1901–1960, Clark Gable, one of the most famous actors of the golden age of Hollywood, known especially for his role in Gone with the Wind, is buried at the Forest Lawn Memorial Park in Glendale, California. Forest Lawn is home to many of Hollywood's greatest stars, but Gable's grave is not easily accessible to the public. His tomb is part of a private family area, which means visitors cannot simply walk to his grave like they could at other memorial sites. The grave site is located in a more exclusive area of the cemetery, and to access it, one must either be accompanied by an authorized guide or have special permission. The area is not part of the public tours that Forest Lawn offers to visitors, and attempts to visit without permission are generally discouraged. While Gable's legacy remains deeply embedded in Hollywood history, the private nature of his resting place has made it inaccessible to many fans who would love to pay their respects. 4. Rudolph Valentino, 1895–1926. Rudolph Valentino, the legendary silent film heartthrob, passed away at the young age of 31, but his death had a profound effect on his fans and on Hollywood. He is buried at the Hollywood Forever Cemetery, one of the most famous cemeteries in Los Angeles, which holds the graves of numerous other stars. However, unlike many other celebrities buried in this cemetery, Valentino's grave is not readily accessible to the public at all times. Valentino's gravesite is part of a mausoleum, and while the cemetery itself is open to visitors, access to his specific area is restricted. The mausoleum is often locked, and tours do not typically include this part of the cemetery. Fans who wish to visit the grave must gain special permission, and in recent years there have been increased restrictions on who is allowed to access the area. Valentino's legacy, however, is one that continues to inspire, and every year, on the anniversary of his death, a special memorial service is held at Hollywood Forever Cemetery. But for the most part, his grave is kept private, as it remains a symbol of the mystique and allure he left behind. Natalie Wood, 1938–1981. Natalie Wood, a beloved actress who died tragically in a drowning incident, is buried at the Westwood Village Memorial Park Cemetery alongside other Hollywood greats. Her death, which remains surrounded by mystery and speculation, only added to her legend. However, Wood's final resting place is not as easily accessible to fans as it once was. Over the years, the cemetery has implemented stricter controls to protect the site and prevent unauthorized access. Wood's grave site is in a relatively private location, and security measures have been heightened to avoid damage, theft, or vandalism. The cemetery does not encourage casual visits to Wood's grave, as it has become an increasingly popular location for tourists, making it difficult for people to visit without proper authorization. The limited access reflects not only the popularity of Wood, but also the need to preserve the cemetery's integrity and privacy for the families of those buried there. Shirley Temple, 1928–2014. Shirley Temple, the child star who became an iconic figure in Hollywood during the Great Depression, is buried at the Los Gatos Memorial Park in California. While her final resting place has been visited by family and close friends, it is not a public grave that can be visited freely by the public. Temple's grave has remained off-limits due to the fact that her family chose to keep it private and do not encourage visitors. While fans can pay respects at her memorial, they must do so respectfully and with awareness of the private nature of her resting place. Temple was a beloved figure, and her legacy is commemorated in many ways throughout Hollywood, but her family has preferred to maintain a sense of privacy around her final resting place, making it inaccessible to the masses. Gary Cooper, 1901–1961. Gary Cooper, the iconic actor known for his roles in High Noon and Sergeant York, is buried at the Sacred Heart Cemetery in Southampton, New York. While the cemetery is open to the public, Cooper's grave is in a private area that is not typically included in public tours. Sacred Heart Cemetery is a relatively small, non-touristy location, and Cooper's grave is in a more secluded part of the cemetery, which can be hard to locate without prior knowledge or special permission. Though it is accessible, visitors often have difficulty finding it without specific directions. Carole Lombard, 1908–1942. Carole Lombard, the beloved actress and wife of Clark Gable, tragically died in a plane crash at the height of her career. She is buried at the Forest Lawn Memorial Park in Glendale, California. While Forest Lawn is a popular destination for tourists visiting the graves of numerous celebrities, Lombard's grave is in a private, more hidden section of the park. Due to the cemetery's large size and its numerous celebrity graves, Lombard's final resting place is harder to find without explicit guidance. Forest Lawn also has strict policies to limit access to certain areas, so visitors often need to arrange for special access or follow more specific paths to locate her site. 9. Spencer Tracy, 1900 and 1967. Spencer Tracy, one of Hollywood's most respected actors, known for his roles in Guess Who's Coming to Dinner and Captain's Courageous, is buried at the Forest Lawn Memorial Park in Glendale, California. Tracy's final resting place is in a part of the cemetery that is not typically included in the general public tours. Forest Lawn does not usually promote visits to certain areas where more private or quiet resting places are located, making it more difficult for fans to find Tracy's grave unless they have prior information. While Tracy's grave is not technically off-limits, it is located in a less accessible area of the cemetery, and security restrictions sometimes make it difficult for visitors to access. People may need to make arrangements or visit with knowledge of the cemetery's layout in order to find his plot. Peter Lorre, 1904–1964. Peter Lorre, known for his distinctive voice and roles in classic films like M and Casablanca, is buried at the Hollywood Forever Cemetery in Los Angeles, California. Hollywood Forever Cemetery is a popular site, known for being the resting place of many famous figures, but Lorre's grave is located in a less accessible, more secluded area. Visitors may have to navigate through various sections of the cemetery, and his grave is not as prominently featured as other star-studded graves, making it harder to find. Though the cemetery is open to the public, Lorre's grave is in a quieter section, which often goes unnoticed by those on the standard tours. As with many other celebrities in Hollywood Forever, while his grave is not outright off-limits, it can be more difficult to visit without specific information or without visiting a less trafficked part of the cemetery. Barbara Stanwyck, 1907–1990. Barbara Stanwyck, one of Hollywood's legendary actresses, known for her roles in films such as Stella Dallas and Double Indemnity, is buried at the Forest Lawn Memorial Park in Hollywood Hills, California. Like many other stars at Forest Lawn, her final resting place is in a private, quiet area of the park. While the cemetery is open to the public and frequently visited by fans, Stanwyck's grave is in a part of the cemetery that is not included in the general walking tours, and it can be difficult to access without prior knowledge of the area. The cemetery is large and requires visitors to follow specific paths to get to certain graves, and Stanwyck's grave is often overlooked, making it a bit more challenging to visit compared to more famous resting spots in the cemetery. Errol Flynn, 1909–1959. Errol Flynn, the swashbuckling star of films like The Adventures of Robin Hood and Captain Blood, is buried at the Hollywood Forever Cemetery in Los Angeles, California. Flynn's grave is located in a more private section of the cemetery, away from the frequently visited graves of other celebrities. Hollywood Forever Cemetery is known for being the burial site of many notable stars, but its large size and layout make it difficult to find some of the less publicized graves without assistance. Flynn's grave is not usually featured in the standard tours, and while the cemetery itself is open to the public, accessing his final resting place can be more challenging due to its location in a quieter section. Visitors often need to specifically inquire about the grave or know exactly where to look to find it. The final resting places of these old Hollywood stars, while important landmarks in the history of cinema, have been made inaccessible to the public for various reasons. Some have been restricted due to concerns about security, while others are maintained privately by families or institutions that wish to keep the sites from becoming tourist attractions. While many fans of these legendary actors would love to visit their graves, it is important to respect the wishes of those who preserve the sanctity and privacy of these resting places, ensuring that the memories of these stars continue to endure, while maintaining the dignity of their final resting spots.